I've said this a number of times on my channel, and I'll say it again that it is so hard to find centers in the National Hockey League. And one thing that I've been thinking about lately is how long is this going to happen? And I was kind of looking at the draft this year, and I'm looking at, okay, like what players can teams target? But this might be something that actually goes on for a long time. So I'm kind of thinking like if you guys are developing centers in your organization, it might make just more sense to just keep them almost even if they aren't performing up to their contract, because it's just almost impossible to find those players that can play down the middle. Now you have a couple of options there. You could look for your pro scouting department, and you could look at other players that are maybe up and coming type players. You could look to move a winger over to the center position. That doesn't necessarily usually go very well though, because it's just not as easy to play center. I would argue that center and defense are probably the two hardest positions to play in hockey. And this is leading me back to the Vancouver Canucks, because their top two centers are Philip Hedl, and then they have Elias Pettersson. And you look at Philip Hedl, and he has some concussion issues. I really, really hope he's fine. I'm sure that he will. He just might need to take a break. But when guys constantly keep on having concussions, that's a real, real issue. And then you have Pettersson, who has his own issues. He seems like he has some, I don't know what you call it, some mental issues around the game. He seems like the media bothers him sometimes. And since he has signed his $11.6 million contract, he has simply not lived up to it. I think in a full season, he was on pace for like 55 or 58 points. That is just simply not good enough. And I don't think that the Canucks should actually trade him at a low. And then the biggest question is if you actually go ahead and trade Elias Pettersson, who do you replace him with? I remember when they were thinking about getting rid of JT Miller this season, I was thinking to myself the whole time, I was saying, who are you going to get to replace him? And the whole time, I actually predicted that they were going to get Philip Hedl, because it was the center that made the most sense that they were going to get. And now we do have more information from Pierre LeBrun, giving us a bit of inside knowledge on what the Vancouver Canucks are going to be doing with Elias Pettersson. In a most recent article from Pierre LeBrun, he said, "Never say never, but all signs point to the Canucks keeping Elias Pettersson, whose full no-move clause kicks in July 1st. The Canucks are encouraged by Pettersson's approach this offseason. While his production over the past two seasons hasn't matched his $11.6 million salary, and he's got 7 more years on his deal, there were teams monitoring that situation, given how thin the UFA market is, but it sounds like Vancouver wants to keep him." Now, we did get more insider news, like LeBrun said there, that they are very happy right now with how Elias Pettersson is dealing with this offseason, because there was potential conditioning issues. There was rumors around Elias Pettersson. I don't really know if that is factually true, but there was rumors that JT Miller was really frustrated with Pettersson's conditioning and really, really, really getting on him about it. And honestly, JT Miller may have had a point. Now, let's be honest. When they traded JT Miller, I think it was pretty solidified that Elias Pettersson was going to stay in Vancouver. Like I said back at that point, you can't trade both of your top 6 centers and be like, oh yeah, no, that's no big deal. So they kind of don't really have a choice, in my opinion, unless they get a top 6 center back. And top 6 centers these days are kind of like unicorns. They really just don't exist anymore. One of the biggest chances for the Canucks to actually be good next year is for him to return back to where he was. If he is an 85-point player to a 100-point player next year, and you have Hughes and you have, more improvement in your roster, you could absolutely see that the Canucks could make the playoffs again. I mean, why not? But if he's just like a 55-point player that you're paying $11.6 million, good luck with that. I don't think that he is. Like, the funny thing is about Elias Pettersson is he is the exact type of player that will go to another organization and he'll just be unbelievable. But you know what I mean? He'll score like 85 or 90 points, be a great player, be a playoff performer, and you're just like, why couldn't he do that here? So ultimately, I would say do not move him. One more point I want to make too is I think that underfoot he will improve. Right, I think that he may have just needed a better coach to coach him up. Now, that's not to say that he had a bad coach or that it's all the other coach's fault, but I just think that maybe he may have needed a change. Like, I personally like Rick Tocchet, but I wonder if he just needed a change of scenery. And maybe Rick Tocchet thought that as well, right? Like, maybe he just thought, maybe it's just not working out here. My take with the Vancouver Canucks and Hughes, for example, is that if they want to keep Hughes around, you're really going to have to show him that you want to be a competitive team right now, right? No player wants to play on a team that is constantly missing the playoffs. And if you get rid of Elias Pettersson, I'm sorry, it's done with Hughes. Can you imagine being Hughes, seeing your number one center that scored 80 points, 100 points, walking right out the door, and you're sitting here being like, well, what the hell do we do? He would be gone in that situation. He might actually already still be gone anyway, but at least they'll have a higher chance to actually keep Hughes. Now, question of this video. Do you disagree with me? Do you think that they actually should be moving Elias Pettersson? Or should they stick with him? Am I right? I always encourage disagreements if you guys think I'm wrong. Now, I do want to say, though, if you do want him gone, how would you replace him? That's a big thing. You don't want to forget that, right? Because you're going to have to replace a top six center on Vancouver's roster, and how do you do that? Anyways, I am going to leave this video here. If you can make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, I would greatly appreciate that, guys. And make sure to have a great day. Goodbye, guys.